Again, my name is Mark Mathis. I'm the district manager for the Fellsmere Water Control District. This is the annual Landowners Meeting. This is not a Board of Supervisors meeting. We will not be discussing the business of the Fellsmere Water Control District from the perspective of the Board of Supervisors. We're here for the purpose of the annual Landowners Meeting. What do we try to accomplish during the Landowners Meeting? Well, every year there's a vacancy on the board. The Board of Supervisors term is 3 years. We have 3 board members. They're staggered by a year, so every year there's a vacancy. So this meeting primarily is to serve to vote for who's replacing that retired supervisor. The other course of business of this is to provide reports to the landowners of the status of the district. We usually have an engineer's report, a financial report, and the district manager report. I have up on the dais over here, if you haven't seen and picked that up, you're more than welcome to. I was able to print out before the meeting the district manager report and the financial report. There's also the list of the voting procedures. Let me grab that in my hand. First thing on the agenda is call to order, which I have done, and to note that the proof of publication has arrived at my office, and this meeting was advertised as required by statute on May 1st and May 8th. At this point in time, we're going to ask that a motion be made from the floor to approve the voting procedures that are up here. If you haven't had a chance to look at it, we have extra copies. For those who want me to go over just generally what they are, basically we assign a chairman for the meeting, and the next vote will hopefully be having you elect me as that chair to run this meeting. And then we also elect a tellers. Tellers are like canvassing board members, are the ones who help me with the vote. I had 2 wonderful ladies volunteer out there, and maybe we can twist their arm and volunteer them to count the votes with me as well. And then after that, we will start asking for an approval from this body for the teller's report. And again, that teller's report is going to be the total number of votes present. And only votes present can vote. Now again, they can be present by person or by proxy. Then after we have approved the teller's report, then we do nominations from the floor. Once the nominations are closed, then we do the voting. And that's going to be the order of the voting procedures. After that, and then as I said, we'll just basically run into the reports at the end of this landowners meeting. So that being said, is there a motion from the floor to approve the voting procedures for today's meeting? Is there a second? There is a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, so we'll be following the voting procedures as laid out on this front handout over here. The second course of business is to designate a chair for this landowners meeting. It has been customary that the district manager chair this meeting, only because we know what we need to do. So if there's a motion to have me continue as the chair of this meeting, someone please make that motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. That being done, we now move to designation of a secretary for the landowners meeting. I was going to take that role as well, because I'm the one who's got to go back and do the minutes, so I might as well be the secretary as well. Any oppositions to the appointment of me as the secretary for this meeting as well? I have no problem with one of you stepping up and doing the minutes for me. No? No takers? All right, we'll move on then. We would normally have our district attorney be one of the tellers, but our attorney is resigning, and we'll be appointing a new one at our follow-up meeting here in a few minutes. And so at this point, I'd like to have a motion for the 2 tellers. And let me just make sure these ladies are still willing to do that for us. I need a motion, please.
So moved.
Is there a second? There is a second. Thank you very much. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, so now we're at the point where we would approve last year's landowner meeting minutes, which were provided in the agenda packet. Does anybody have any questions on those minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve last year's landowners minutes?
Move approval.
There's a motion. Is there a second? There is a second. Thank you, sir, very much. And just for the purpose of the minutes, it's going to be person one and person two. If you want your name as a motioner or a seconder, you'll need to give me your name after we're done here. Otherwise, it's person one and person two.
I have a question. Can we ask a question? Just from your minutes there. Your minutes state that last year, or the last time, a year ago, that your district attorney swore the oath in. If you don't have a district attorney today, who's swearing the oath in of the new supervisor?
We would do that at the followed-up Board of Supervisors meeting,
Okay.
where the new attorney will be seated.
Okay.
Okay? All right, so we had a motion for minutes, but I don't recall a second. We did a second. All right, all those in favor of approving last year's landowners meeting, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes. So now we're at the election of supervisors. The first thing we need to do is determine the number of voting units present. So let me go grab that sheet real quick.
We approve the voting procedures, then he tells us he don't have an attorney to fill the number 10. Smoke and mirrors. He knew he didn't have an attorney before he began. It's sad this year, but I mean, am I wrong?
That's right.
Hey, Mark, I'd like to mention a head count. We got like close to 90 people here. I don't think everybody signed in. Recounting, about 90 people showed up for this meeting today.
Tried to do in my head. Not to do it. So, 1 second, please. According to the sign-in sheet, we have 19,252 votes present. I need a motion to accept the teller's report.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
That's only individuals that are here, it's not the
That
proxies?
includes the proxies.
It doesn't include the proxies, okay.
And again, this is unverified, everything's unverified until after the meeting when we finish the verification process, which we put on hold for time's sake. So there could be more, there shouldn't be any less, but there could be a few more.
Move approval.
Move approval on the teller's report. Is there a second?
Second.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Is it incomplete?
What's incomplete, sir?
The tally of votes?
The votes haven't been made yet, sir. We're talking about the number of votes present. They haven't been cast yet. It's just the number that are available to be had
With the proxy?
with the proxies. Yes. That's assuming when you filled this out, you filled out your vote plus the proxies. If you didn't fill it out correctly, then that number will go a little higher.
Yeah. I don't recognize the one paper you got here.
Well, this is the signing sheet. Did you sign the signing sheet?
No.
Okay, well, can I have you go out with these ladies?
I didn't put my proxies on there.
Sign it. So let's just take a step back. If anybody did not sign in who is voting, please go outside and sign in. If you're voting and you have other people's proxies, include those on the acreage next to your name.
I did not do that.
Okay, we can do that for you. What number do you know you have?
372.
I'm being proactive, I'm getting up.
We were told to do that.
See, I was ahead of you that time.
It's good to assume he's there.
I couldn't believe it when I saw that puppy. I had to put that out there. That puppy on Willow. When you come up on 93rd and 91st, and you go approaching the light, it's there on the right there. Across from the yellow house in the corner. House.
Anybody else?
Looks like a little husky mix, maybe.
Failed to fill their proxies on the
I saw
list.
that.
Little tiny puppy, poor thing.
Gave your vote to somebody else. That person should have put
I like dogs more than people.
Yeah,
I got 3 dogs, and one of them's deaf, and she was gone for 4 hours.
Yeah.
I'm going through people's backyards at midnight.
Exactly. Trying to
Because
find
she
my
chased
dog.
after who knows what. It's the only time she ever ran out my gate. And she never, only the wasn't here. We found her in the pasture. I'll reach through the barbed wire fence and get her to smell me. And she realized it was me. She's deaf, and she don't see very well. And it was raining, so she couldn't smell her way back home. Even if she didn't know. So, yeah, it was traumatizing. Don't laugh at your dog.
All right, let's get a revised number. We now have a total of 19,725 potential votes. Can I have a motion for the revised teller's report? A second for the revised teller's report.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Just to take a quick break before we start nominations. What we did outside was we put your name here, which is your representation of your landowner and your address and your acreage. If you had proxies, we had you add the proxies to that as well. We then took your proxies from you so that we could verify those are also landowners as well. While you were there, most of you, we verified your ownership as well while you were there. So that way, when we cast the ballots, we don't then have to verify ownership, we've already done that verification. So that's what we've been doing out in the front, and that resulted in, as I said, a total of 19,725 potential votes. So at this point, we're at the nomination of supervisors. You can nominate any landowner in the district, whether they are present here or not. So I will take nominations from the floor.
We'd like to nominate Grant Danskin.
Okay, Grant Danskin. Any other nominations from the floor?
Point of order, didn't the voting thing say you had to be present to be nominated?
No, the voting procedure.
He's here.
Originally said that, we modified that because it was inconsistent with law.
I don't know, I read that somewhere.
Any other nominations from the floor? Timothy Dooley. Any other nominations from the floor? Seeing no nominations, I'm closing the nomination period. At this point in time, we'll be casting ballots. Most of you were given a ballot when you signed in that should have had the number of votes that were verified. Grant Danskin and Tim Dooley. If you did not get a ballot with your acreage on, the ballots are out front. Go ahead and fill it in, and we will again verify the ownership after the meeting and the acreage. So at this time, I'm going to lay the box on this table, and you just leave your ballots upside down in that box. When we're all done, we'll take a break and count. So at your pleasure, feel free to stick your ballots in the box.
Hey, Dave.
We have to do the ballot too. I didn't read your
Because I don't know what the instructions are.
Tammy, I can't get up. Would you put that in there for me? Thank you.
I love your hair. My daughter would too. She's not with me right now.
Do it or, yeah, there you go.
We got straight up 5. We got 5 straight up. Dave, I'm going to have you sign it because you're primary. No, actually, technically, I'm not. He's only on the board. So I have to. No, I am on the board because I'm the secondary, but I'm not. That's right, I am on the board. But I just can't remember, okay? Because I always put myself on the deal. No, they say do the financing, and then I'm on the deal. Yes. I think. That's what they said. We were. Maybe it's a fraud. And you know what I was thinking about, when I went to the property appraisal site, I'm recalling the form, where it has the, 2 names that are on it. And then I am not the primary, but I'm the secondary. So I I don't know if that, I don't know.
It seems like they couldn't because they haven't ever got, they can't afford more quorum because not everybody's voted in.
Yeah.
I hope this is a day, this is just the vote and go.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Oh, sorry. No, fine. that's what you're paying for. That software we have is not cheap, so that's why they charge $200 for labor.
No, it's fine. I will take it.
Oh, yeah, it's worth it. It's worth it. I did. I had to ask. Yeah, that's those. You know, I could have done it as well. The thing of this is that it's better to pay somebody because then they're liable. So if you break it, you know, it's not likely that I would break it, but it's one of those examples they hold to. That's the biggest thing. Is they also hold to the software.
Tallied. Unofficial results until we verify out of the office. All the signatures and ownership information is 18,103 votes for Tim Dooley, 1,445 votes for Grant Vance. So the supervisor for the next 3-year term will be Tim Dooley.
No fair.
He will be brought into the board at the July meeting. He's unable to be here tonight. So we're going to finish up this meeting, move into the next meeting, and then we'll start the Board of Supervisors meeting.
Yeah.
One at a time, please. I had a question, how many votes came from Fellsmere Farms?
Recount. Recount.
18,000. Who wastes our time here?
1,000? Really? That's
1,000. Because I get the two owners of the 18,000, they can count for 18,000 votes, right?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
the media.
And the ones that we have 10 acres, oh, it's only 10 votes. Only one owner.
The method of voting is is set by the state of Florida. It is right out of law. We do not set these rules. The state of Florida sets the rules.
If they wait, I didn't interpret the law too.
So at this point in time, out of the 18,103 votes, it looks like all but 12 were from the farm.
Excuse me, can you repeat that?
All but 12 were from the farm. The question was from the young lady, how many votes for Tim Dooley came from the farm? The answer is 18,103 minus 12. Yes, ma'am.
And how many did you say were cast for someone other than Tim Dooley?
1,445.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions?
Yes. I see here he's a registered agent for Fellsmere Estates LLC, which is another board-owned corporation land. And I just want to know, why do we keep repeating this, man?
Conflict of interest.
Conflict of interest.
People of conflict of interest.
All right, that's a statement, not a question. Is there another question I can deal with?
What,
You in the back, sir?
I was looking, this has nothing to do with the voting, so maybe I need to wait till the next meeting.
Yes, please, let's try to focus on the meeting. Anything about the vote and this landowners meeting?
what property is registered to him to be eligible to be on the board?
He owns a property, lot number 24, block 42 of the city of Fellsmere.
Is that Elm Street?
Excuse me?
Is that the Elm Street property that,
I don't know.
It's the
the
one
north half? Oh,
North half, yes, it
Gotcha.
says north half. sir.
yeah, the .04 acres that can't build on, yeah, I got it. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? When you say get this information, if they're a landowner in the city, if they're a landowner in the Fellsmere Water Control District, they got the same letter everybody else got.
Is the city of Fellsmere considered in the,
Yes,
okay, so everyone in the city got one?
yes.
Okay.
Anybody else have a question? Yes, ma'am.
Can you spell his last name for me?
Dooley. Next question?
Yes, Mr. Matthews, you said the 18,103 was from the farm.
Minus 12.
How many owners were in there?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know the ownership structure.
Okay, so it's multiple owners.
Next question?
Would you repeat the lot that he has, please?
North half of block 24, block 42. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, thanks for taking my question. Okay, one quick question. What is per capita the demographics, Latin, Hispanic, English?
I have no idea.
Okay, so I believe maybe around 65–70% Latin in the city of Fellsmere. These memos were put out in English language, correct? They needed to be placed out bilingually. There is elderly people here with Spanish influence that may not speak or read English very well. So these are people that probably were unaware.
One second, sir.
We all know.
Any other comments, sir? Any other comment?
No, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, would you happen to know how long Mr. Dooley's been in possession of this property in the district?
I do not know that.
Is it decades?
Actually, no, just for a short period of time.
Short period, how long is a short period of time?
We can't hear you, Dave.
It says the 19th of May.
19th of May he came in possession of the property?
Another question?
4 days ago.
Okay.
3-year term. Next question? Yes, Grant.
So you had 18,103 votes that came from Fellsmere Joint Ventures.
Mostly.
And that's one person for 18,000 votes. And you have,
Conflict of interest.
He's been in Fellsmere 3 days.
You have 14
One person at a time, John. Grant's got the floor.
you had 1,445 votes of individuals, for the most part. tells people something, the fact that they don't want that one person. Only one person wants that one person.
Okay.
Everybody else wants the other person.
Who is Tim Dooley? Because I don't know who he is. He
Any other comments? Hold on, let's do it, Grant. Any other comments?
No, I mean, I could go all day, but
Yes, sir.
Jim Dooley? Who is he? I'm just wondering who he is. Is that the lawyer down there?
No, sir, he's not here tonight.
He can't be elected then.
He's a landowner. Why can't he be
He
elected?
cannot. You better read the rules.
You have to
Oh, no, they changed the rules, remember? They changed the rules.
They changed the rules and said that you do not have to be present. No, I'm not.
Because that's
the new rule.
Because that's what statute is, folks.
No, the statute is that to be present. You guys changed it.
Statute's unsaid.
Statute.
One at a time.
Dooley was a landowner, Fellsmere since May of this year.
It's 3 days ago.
3 days.
And that doesn't sound suspicious to anybody.
It sounds suspicious
I get it, I've got to live in the real world.
You gotta face the facts, Mark. You gotta face the facts.
I'm here to follow the law and to guide the landowners meeting.
We understand that.
I can't do any more than that.
That's,
Yes, sir.
How much money that they are making? They are paying for this.
Professional, and I don't want to disrespect you. You know, I think there's a breach of sunshine law here. The candidate has to be present.
Under what statute are you referring
Well,
to?
you can cite me the statutes, it's your problem. So some of us can look it up because you can cite a bunch of statute numbers that none of us know. I mean, where I believe there's a conflict of interest when,
Yes, sir.
finish my comment.
Go ahead.
So when Fellsmere Farms, the entity, they have 18,000 votes per block? That, come on.
Is that a question?
I mean, it's a question and an answer, like, come on, that's ridiculous.
Okay. Yes, sir.
What's the total acreage?
Total acreage in the district is about 30,000 acres.
So it's impossible to get anyone else.
Under a 1 acre, 1 vote rule, depending upon how the largest landowners vote. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am, in the back.
Quiet, people.
This month, this year.
2 days ago. 3 days ago, they transferred that piece from the one.
Yes, ma'am.
meeting to the one.
My question is, when did you change the rule about having the landowner present? Because in the last packet I saw, it said they had to be present. When did you change that?
I changed it during this week.
This week?
This will not stand.
Hey, everybody, one second, please, if you'll just listen up, because I think I can make this stop and go away. And I know that's what they want to. There is no arguing with this. There truly isn't. The only way to argue is to take it to the legislature and make it change in the legislature. There is an ongoing right now. Everybody understand that? So when it comes to the time that everybody needs to get behind that and make it change in the legislature, that's the only way you're ever going to be able to argue with this. You will not be able to argue tonight. It's not fair. They just changed they took the piece from the one board member and transferred it to the new board member. That's true. This goes on and on and on and on, and we're not going to go there tonight because we'll be here all night long. So everybody, please remember that this is going to have to go to the legislature. It's got to go through legal. It's been started. Please contact your landowners to go forward with this, because tonight's not the place. You're not going to be able to change this.
We need to get together, and we will be legal, I can do
Yes,
all
ma'am.
this fine. We need to get, that's not fair.
Property owners on the west, okay,
Everybody,
Control District voting procedures, under number 6, nomination of supervisors, it says only landowners present may be nominated.
Present. It's a sham. He's gone. It's a sham.
That's not fair, Sarah. You have volunteers?
Grants are new
There's
guy.
nothing in statute that requires a nominee to be here.
That's what's in your procedure that you sent out on your website.
And you all voted on the procedure.
It's on the website.
I know,
This is what you advertised to the public.
it's a bait and switch.
You changed it 3 days ago, Sarah. That's not
Everybody
fair.
in this room voted on these voting procedures on this table.
Because you changed it.
This is
You
your
changed
policy.
the rule.
It's not what you put on the website.
Change your cell and change all you people.
Anybody else?
Change your cell. Change it 3 days ago.
Just like the financials, it's different.
Oh, I tried.
If that is not a miscarriage of justice in every way, shape, or form, I don't know what it is.
How do people pick quality?
What people need to realize is after the statement, we're going to win. They need to know and they can stay.
Need some information on like governor and who you need to contact.
So at this point in time, I'll just note that the reports are on the front, guys. If you want to take a copy with you, they're the reports required by statute. They're on the front, guys. Any other business for the landowners meeting? Any others?
I just, one thing, whenever you send the paperwork out next year, make sure the statute's changed in the paperwork you're sending out. Don't change it after that. It's not fair.
It's not the best way to do business, but it happens all the time, sir.
It's shyster.
It happens all the time.
You people are so crooked, it's unbelievable.
It has to be public prior to the 30 days.
Crooked. You're so
All right, at
crooked.
this point, we're going to close the landowners meeting. And if you want to stick around, we have a board of supervisors meetings that follows in a few minutes.
I need to get my other phone out.
You guys sleep at night.
No, I have another one just so that I can go and doctor everything.
You know, you. Unbelievable.
Right there, that Bible.
That white one.
What they do is go take a picture of it and see where it got it from. There's probably a link on there. It's perfect for you to get the information. It's gonna pick it up, so that way they go and get it.
So when is Grant going to be sworn in?
He's picking it up now, you might want to go get it.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah, right. That was just,
The white book, I think?
they know that their pockets are going to get slammed over and over again because this, she said, to let them know how much that we need in order to continue with the attorney. So I said, just give her a call, and she You guys all on the same, to go ahead and blast it?
I will.
I'm kind of just letting the cat out of the bag. So it's not like they didn't know.
I'm calling tomorrow.
They know ethics, they know the FDLE, they know the investigation. So now they know that we're going to legislature. I don't care. I just think that we need to get everybody on the same time. We want to oh, well,
Wait. What are they? I couldn't find it. So I'm home
that same letter you got in the email?
occupy something and send it out to you guys. Because I don't post anything without you guys telling me it sucks. I don't want to be responsible for misinformation.
This thing that I check shopping, signal messages.
They want another email with the names of everybody that's in the law.
So all 400 and something people?
Put in all of this, all the landowners together.
Is there a
What's that?
We have to make one of these for the minute meeting.
Okay. I just went on the website and said,
Are they gonna let you talk?
well, I haven't done yet. When
Call the meeting to order. Apologize, but the microphones are not working. They're in the back. You may want to come up. There's open seats right here in the first row. Apologize for that. The system just isn't working. So, call the meeting to order.
And you better talk loud.
Mr. Tim Dooley is the general manager.
It's not working.
We really can't hear you. We really can't.
A little closer.
Yeah, I would try to come up here in front of him.
What do you want us to sit on the floor?
Plenty of seats in front, open.
All right, I'll try to shout. Can you hear me? All right,
Hey,
so
I'd have to point out too that it's probably a violation of the American Disability Act.
Actually, it's not, sir. You only have to have assisted listening devices if you have amplified devices. If you're not using amplified devices, we don't need them.
Wrong, you're required to have amplified devices, you have hearing impaired people in the audience.
They're in violation.
I didn't hear that.
I encourage you to move up to the front row.
Say if I'm not comfortable being that close to you.
Be nice, everybody.
Yeah. All right. Call to order. First matter is proof of publication. The meeting was published.
May 1st and May 8th.
And so we'll start with a board reorganization. And I just was going to explain that Tim Dooley is the new supervisor on the district. Tim is the general manager out at Fellsmere Farms, Sunac. He's a farmer, and he's been doing that for 30 years, and a long-time resident in the community. Unfortunately, he had some very compelling personal conflict tonight that prevented him from being here. But tonight, he would be here in July. Okay, so what do we need to do, Mark, with regard to the board reorganization?
You can just go right down the list and we can make motions and votes for each of the vacancies. So the first one will be president. Current president is Mr. Nelson.
Why don't we just move the slate things faster?
Okay, we can continuing engineering services, or it might be later on the agenda, if the board chooses to sign him as that role. So that will be dealt with under a different item for the district engineer.
I move that slate.
So in terms of the president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, deputy secretary, deputy treasurer, there's been a motion.
Okay, to do the district attorney separate? Okay, so as motion, I'll second that. We can go ahead and vote aye. So,
We're going to pass a meeting there, and then we'll go to district attorney.
so our district attorney, Jonathan Johnson, from Kutak Rock, he is resigning in his service due to personal reasons. And we have present with us today from the firm of Lewis, Longman, and Faulkner, Mr. Seth Bain. And Seth has a lot of experience with 298 districts, and he was tutored under Terry Lewis, who was the preeminent attorney in the state, a specialist on 298 drainage districts. So I would move that we engage Lewis, Longman, and Walker, as represented by Seth Bain.
Second. I assume we have to give a letter, or we'll have to give a letter.
Yeah, all in favor, aye? Aye. So Seth, if you want to go ahead and move up here.
While he's doing that, I'll go ahead and move the Ron Associates continues as the auditor. Under their original contract, we're going to change that, but I think they're doing a fine job. Any approval?
Okay, and I'll second that. Is there anybody who has any questions about the district auditors? Yes, go ahead.
Just a statement, Mr. Prince, when you speak, could you speak out to us instead of down? We can't.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Thank
ma'am. I
you.
apologize.
Okay. So a second, all in favor of keeping Raw as the auditors?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So, next, we have a quorum with 2 supervisors present. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda requested?
I'd like to add a item I-5, which is discussion of future workshops.
Okay. That was number 5 under item I to discuss future workshops. I'm fine with that.
Fine.
Yeah, agreed. Any other changes on the agenda?
Recommendation, as a group, we had sent you an email and provided a hard copy to you today. I'd like that to be added to the agenda, or at least read in, that you received it.
Yes, that'll happen under public comments.
At the end, after everything's voted on, we're gonna comment. We'd like to comment now, if we could, before you go to vote on everything. That'd be
Let me
great.
speak to that, because when I joined the board, I moved that under my direction, because what happens is we have public comment first, we get all jumbled up, we get off the track. This is a supervisor's meeting. You turn it into a back and forth, you lose
It's not a
track.
back and forth. You get 3 minutes to
You
speak
miss
to
a
these.
minute. So that's why it's like that. We have changed the agenda so that when we have something to vote on, we always ask for comment on that item only. You know we've done that for the last several meetings.
Okay.
So do you have a public comment on the additions to the agenda?
Yes, several comments.
Okay.
That's why we provided you the letter. It broke down all those comments.
So
It
you're
gave it to you
asking
3 days in
the
advance.
comment letter to move public comments to the front.
Correct.
To rearrange a couple items on the agenda.
I mean, I'll stand up if you like.
You know what?
I'll get, you can time in 3 minutes.
I object to that because there's no names on it. It comes to me through email with the thing with the group. I wrote back and asked to be identified. Nobody identified themselves. So I don't like that idea of anonymous emails.
Well, I'll make my comments. I'll identify myself right now then. That's fine. I mean, I'm one of many, but that's okay.
During the public comments.
Okay. Is now a good time or should we wait? You wanna go each individual item? We'll go each individual item.
From the letter you provided, they've looked at that. If they chose not to move anything around the agenda, that's just their choice. They get the option to run the meeting.
I understand,
They choose.
Mr. Kurtz said that we would comment each individual item. We can do that. I'm satisfied with that. That's fine.
So nothing else on additions to the agenda, moving on to the approval of minutes?
Move.
Second.
Aye.
Okay, we're down to G, engineers matters. Anything, Mr. Simons, that you would like to report on?
If you'd like to go ahead and make a summary of your engineer's annual report, feel free to do that as well at this time.
Okay. The annual engineers report, there's a few copies on this table up here. I'll hit the highlights and try to keep it brief. So we got the hurricane season is over at the beginning of my report. It's usually the most important part for a drainage district. We report on any significant storms and any follow-up work that's done to improve things. This last hurricane season, Milton affected us a little bit. It was not a direct hit. We had some tornadoes in this area, but there was really only 4 inches, 4.27 inches in the whole month of October. So it was kind of a non-event rain-wise. As far as Carter Associates being the engineer of record, we've been the engineers of record, I think, since 1990, and I've personally been involved since about 2000, 2005, something like that. And I have to explain to you, I'm going into retirement, semi-retirement, and I have told the board, I've told Mark that we will not be submitting for the RFQ for the replacement engineer. And so this will be my last meeting. Recently, I've been transferring information to Mark, historical files that we've had in the office. Some of that took place under the previous administrator, Frank Sakuma. Mostly what I'm dealing with now is transferring the electronic copies of site plans and so forth that have been processed through my office. Certainly worth mentioning the big storm in November 2023. It's changed quite a bit of how Fellsmere water control works. For one thing, the board meetings are here now because there's so much interest. The board's responding to the interest by accommodating a bigger meeting room. Meetings are scheduled regularly with Mark Mathis, with the citizens who wish to meet with them and express their concerns. Unfortunately, we've had some negative news here too. A landowner filed a complaint with the State Department of Ethics. Now the state and staff and supervisor time is being spent to discuss past operations with the state investigators. A landowner has also filed a public records request related to past operations. So these things are working their way through the processes, and it's totally different than anything I'm used to. Now, I came here, I had brown hair. That was a long time ago. And I'm not saying this made my hair turn gray overnight. I'm just saying I've got enough gray hair. I think it's time for me to move on. I'm 68, and I'm past where I thought I was going to retire. I've extended my employment with the district and other districts, trying to make a transition to some new engineers to take my place. So, as I go through my engineer's report, I'll hit on some of the other highlights. We approved some site plans this last year. Brown and Sons, that's a site plan out by the east boundary, just south of 512. City of Fellsmere Rail Trail, the FJB Dispersed Water Storage Facility, and an affidavit of exemption for large lots called Indian Summer Estates, subdivision of 5 acre franchise. Some of the things that are still in the permit process: drainage and walking trail improvements to the Kentucky ditch, that's ditch 16. In the Marion Estates subdivision, which I sent a request for this additional information last November, and I've not received a response. There's several things in there that were to enhance the district's ability to maintain existing drainage and also service the new development. They're struggling with that, I believe. We have water quality samples that were paused for a while at the shift of administrators. We did receive one here for the month of this calendar year, May, and the water quality is very good. We meet both the standards for Florida's nutrient numeric thresholds. And with that, I conclude my report. And hopefully this district perceives that everyone gets better service and is more satisfied with the district's work. And I hope the best to all of you.
Thank you, George.
George, let me ask you a question. On Marion Estates, I know there was, I saw a letter from Wesley Mills, the engineer, that they were back on track, that had some issues with the city of Fellsmere on environmental issues.
He has not responded to my comments.
Yes, they are back on track. They had their first reading of their public hearings for approval, I think it was yesterday at City Hall. Wesley, I spoke to him at the hallway, and he acknowledged that he had, because he wanted to get through, the vesting process first before he spent more money on engineering. So
Sure.
I expect he'll be reaching out soon. I reminded him of our issue with the maintenance access to the ditch, and he understood that, and I'll make sure that happens.
Is there any idea when that may actually begin?
I won't be guessing.
Thank you.
George, how many years, well, Carter's been representing the district for probably 50 years, I guess.
It could be. 1996 is mine.
That's when you started?
Yeah. That's when I started. I started with Carter in '88. I started working with district things early on in my career. But Marvin and Inucci were the main consultants. And as they retired, I assumed more of a role sometime around 2005. I assumed a pretty prominent role with this district. And I've enjoyed working here.
Well, we've enjoyed having you, really do. Thank you. Thank you for your service. Wish you a happy retirement. Maybe slow it down on retirement. Okay. I think we accept
Before we move on from the engineer, I have a couple questions for the engineer. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, people that left won't know, but we're seeing like a jump of ship here. There's 3 people of the 6 people, key players, that are now leaving: the lawyer, Richard, and Jordan. Nothing personal against you. Pretty poor climatology report and all, because I've read a bunch of Joyce's for years, and hopefully the minutes in writing will look better than that. Nothing against you, George. It's not even really your job. What's the other thing? Because we mentioned the storm in 2023. I need a direct answer asking, were the locks at like the college boat ramp open to drain C-54 because the manatee outlet was closed? And I think the gate number is C1, which would back pressure the whole system. I won't get any further into it, but I'd like to know, because I know you've met them out there about the erosion. I know that other things have happened right at that point, and I'd like further discussion on that. when we left in January, we were talking about the water farm. I'd like to know what the update on that is, because you, first time, have mentioned that in your engineering report now. And I believe if it's not final, it's probably is, right? Is the permit for the water farm final?
It's been issued.
Issued or final?
We haven't finalized it.
Okay. That's a concern to me that we never had it in the engineering report. We actually asked Mark, would we know the location and everything? When the permit was applied, Mark said after the board meeting that he forgot, but acted that he didn't even know it was there, and you spoke up, and then there too, and told him it had been applied for. And then the last thing, we'll go back to the climatology report, we're kind of a fan of Joyce, and we don't even mention the lack of rain. And we're double assessing, we've got a 400% increase in drainage taxes alone in 7 years since they split the district. We're using the wrong terminology. This district is being segregated into large pieces of land that the board owns, and then you see the assessment fall. Case in point, and I'll talk to anybody about this, but I know what y'all, I don't know all y'all know, but I do know. And that's about it, but it's not against you, George. I mean that like, it's not directed at you.
No offense taken.
Okay. Anything, anybody, so we're not final on the water farm? We're not final permit, not final, you know, there's a final inspection on the water farm.
The permit had to do with the connection of a pump intake to lateral U. So the pump draws water out of lateral U and runs it through the water farm to clean it up and so forth.
How far down below the bottom of the canal is that pickup? Is it some type of sump pump? Because there's not like enough water to even pump out of that canal.
There's a sump.
How far down below the bottom of the canal is that pickup?
That particular part of the canal was dug a little deeper.
Okay. And what about the grass on the side of the bank? Because we paid $400 for a permit for a 1,600 acre water farm. And I don't even know where to go from there, but they haven't even grassed the side of the dike after digging the whole $400, wiped the whole sidewall out of lateral U, 1,600 acres, and we're gonna pay, somebody's gonna pay $400 for a permit for that? I don't feel like if we had other board members, that they'd be making these same decisions, and that's why all these people were here. It's not because we got flooded. It's because y'all raised our taxes from 29 to 37 to now 45. And we're in a drought. And we've been paying $700,000 budgets. And we think another $300,000 is going to fix the problem in $1 million. We got a 2-man employment and $1 million budget. We've got to get something else going here. And it looks like we're getting new members anyway, but it looks more like jump ship. I won't mess with y'all anymore tonight. Y'all listen tight.
Did you say that in the storm the lock was closed? Is that what you said?
No, what I'm asking you is because they had the manatee outlook at C-54 closed and seawalled off for repairs for almost 2 years. In that 12-inch storm, or whatever you want to call it, did St. John's, I know they contacted you to dewater C-54 several times. What I need to know is, did they open it up the week of that flood? That's what I'm asking, point blank. Did they open them locks up that week to dewater C-54 because they could not get it out to St. Sebastian River because they were doing concrete work and had the manatee outlook under construction?
But our system isn't connected to C-54.
Greg, you say that all the time, dude. We've got video of you draining your irrigation ditch into lateral U just 2 months ago.
But
wide open. No, listen
the
to
lateral
me.
U does not
They're
connect to
all
C-54.
connected. There's a set of locks right there at the first boat ramp where the college
But that's not our canal, it's the Fellsmere main canal that we drain to, not C-54.
Greg, are you aware that they put 2 new plastic pipes underneath the grade right there in that set of locks I'm talking about? I'm asking you, it's gate C1, and I want to know, did they turn the water out of C-54 through that lock in the main canal? That's a simple question, and I'd appreciate it if somebody could tell me what it is.
Have you reached out to St. John's for that question, since it's their locks?
We're trying to do everything we can, Mark. We're talking with you and everything. I've talked to you about
To my knowledge, they did not open those.
it. Okay, but
When they talk to
you
us-
acknowledge that you met them out there for erosion and everything else, right?
As part of the project to clean the Fellsmere main canal, we met with them to discuss access, because that's their property. We had to get access permission. We dug some material out of the main canal. We had to ask them what they wanted us to do with it. When they were working on the replacement for the gates at the end of C-54, they asked us if we would let them open those gates. There's 2 48-inch gates, I think it is, to de-water C-54 so the contractor could work more in the dry and less trying to de-water that spot. If you can lower the water 3 or 4 feet, it saves the contractor a lot of de-watering issues.
Right.
Moves the project along.
What I'm
We had
asking is,
certain-
was that de-water the week of that storm?
We had very stringent agreement with them that they put a staff gauge where those pipes are,
Yes, they did.
and they had to monitor the staff gauge. We allowed them to raise the water in the main canal a foot or so, which is still way below any land out here. And if a storm was coming, they had to close those gates.
So
They did all of that, and we cooperated with them.
I'm sorry to make this about this. It's really a question for the board, not you though, because you wouldn't have got the call, they would. Actually, probably Frank Saputo would probably have got the call. Did they need water during the 23 storm? The week of the 23 storm? I'd like to know the answer to that. Let me let y'all go have your meeting.
Yeah, okay. I think the engineers' matters are complete, and we're on to item H, attorneys' matters. And obviously, Seth is brand new to us, and so maybe just to give a little bit of a background, just the experience in terms of dealing with it.
What was this company? Was it an organization?
So I'm an attorney with the firm of Lewis, Longman and Walker, LLW. We are an environmental and government firm here in the state of Florida. We have 4 offices around the state. Our founder, my mentor, Terry Lewis, was referred to as one of the godfathers of 298 drainage districts. Helped craft the law, worked on these districts around the state, was a noted expert in it. I've been with the firm for 13 years now. And so my practice is largely centered around 298 districts. I serve as general counsel to a number of drainage districts, largely throughout South Florida, also in Orange County, my other St. John's district. Also do special counsel work for districts throughout the state. I live in northern Martin County, so I'm right in your backyard. Grew up out in Clewiston on the south of the Lake of Okeechobee, so not new to agricultural operations and land. So.
One more time, your name, please.
Yep, it's Seth, S-C-T-H.
Seth?
Seth, yeah, Bain, B-B-H-N. I'll give you my card after the meeting.
Okay. Seth, right?
Seth, yeah.
Seth, okay, thank you.
And John reached out to me. You know some of my partners in the Tallahassee office. Said, as you had heard, that you needed to step down for personal reasons, invited us to come up. And since this is kind of my backyard, I was happy for the opportunity to come out and assist you all.
Thank you, Seth.
Yep.
Appreciate that. So on to managers' matters. Number 1, financials.
Yeah, I let them speak for themselves. If you have any questions about those, please share. I did get some feedback from Mr. Kurtz on some method of recording some items, so there may be some adjustments to this and some prior reports. the total amount, that's accurate, it's just spread it across property or categories. With regards to the manager report, I think it also speaks for itself. There's 3 months manager reports in here since we didn't have a March meeting. And so if you have any questions on what I've been up to the last 3 months, you can holler. We can go over that.
Can we do public comment, question about the financials? Now a good time?
Yes.
Is that the report you had on the table up there?
No, that's the annual report. What
Okay.
here's the monthly report.
Oh, gotcha, okay. I was just checking, because on the website I didn't see that, so.
Didn't see.
Well, that financial was different than the financial on our website. I was just making sure it didn't change again.
What was the question, Mark? Is there anything to do with the digger report? Yeah, what was you just saying?
Sorry.
Sorry, no, that's all right.
Manager's report.
Manager's report, okay.
Yeah, and the next item is the status of sub-level inspections and cleaning. That's more of the operator.
Right, right.
And the updated map I have is an April 30th map. So obviously it's a couple weeks behind in terms of sub-laterals that have been cleaned. And then you have the monthly reports that he provides, actually daily, group by month for January, February, and March, it looks like. March is not, actually March and April is combined. April, unfortunately, March was a very slow month because of the passing of his family and some sickness of his own. So we actually had some machine downtime too, so there wasn't a lot of activity in March as it relates to cleaning ditches. I still feel that we should be able to get through the worst of the ditches by the end of the fiscal year, at which time I hope to transition to a scheduled maintenance program where everybody will know, generally speaking, when or what month their ditch may be touched with a mechanical device. We'll be talking hopefully in July about doing a spray before the end of this fiscal year as well.
Well, excuse me. You know, I can tell you, having seen my sublateral mechanical clean is a mess. As you know, you and I looked at it. I clearly changed my opinion, I think, on mechanical versus spraying versus mowing. I think when we did the budget last year, we realized our goal was to mechanically clean all the sublaterals so we wouldn't do any spraying, we didn't do the one mowing. I really believe that the mess that it makes, and I realize on record, it wasn't done for a long time, but so the mess was bigger than it would have been. But it would seem to me that really the maintenance going forward really is taking care of areas that either collapses, sandbars, whatever, that regularly scraping the bottom of the sublaterals, I don't think is necessarily a great practice, based upon, not an engineer, just based upon physical observation. And I would ask your opinion on that as well. I mean, I think we've seen, there's a lot of stuff coming out now, there's tires, there's trees, there's other stuff in there. But I think spraying and trying to control the growth other than other types of washouts or things that physically happen to the bottom of the canal.
Yes, I tend to agree that getting back to a 2 ICU spraying program proceeding immediately by mowing for good access and enhancing that with some tree care to make sure there's no overhanging limbs blocking the flow of either the sprayer or potentially the water will help keep the aquatic vegetation from getting so bad. But there may always be hot spots where we have to go out there and deal with something. But yes, it's not expected that when the system is back into hopefully a stable mode, it's not expected that you're going to have a machine on your ditch every year. In fact, I'd be surprised if we saw it every 3 or 4 years.
Well, that was my point when you said a regular schedule. I want to make sure that there was not that impression that I can count on Thursday next week.
It won't be that precise.
The other thing, George, a lot of that tropical signal grass and stuff that's in there does help filter some of the water. I mean, I know water quality is an issue as well for us. So that does help with that. It helps filter out some of the stuff before it gets to the.
It slows down the flow, but it has some benefits as well. Sun
that's leaving those nutrients. And so,
Let's see about it.
Yeah.
I would just tell you also that the gnats are, just moved an excavator this afternoon, they're gonna clean all the country trees off it, you know.
That's awful nice of you.
So, my neighbor, so you can thank me.
My question goes to this. So are you still gonna clean out the ditches with machines first? My property's from 1980. The culvert was put in the 1980s. 3 foot of mud and slush has come in since then. If I was to dig it out and put another culvert, it'd be sitting on about 3 feet of muck. Right now, it's only got a little bit of water going through because it's got all that muck. So are you gonna clean that after like it's supposed to be first? And then let the grass grow?
We had a survey of our sublaterals, and we will be addressing the profiles, which they call that, on our ditches. We're not doing that with the aquatic removal. That would be a special project, because you need to bring in surveyors and other things for that.
So you're not necessarily gonna take it back to what it was in the 70s and 80s. So people have
We're gonna
to
take
bring
it-
up their culverts because you're not gonna take it
We're
out
gonna
that.
take it back to the desired line. I can't tell you if it's the 80s and 70s line, but whatever the desired line is from the district engineers, we're gonna take it back to. But not with the aquatic removal, that focuses on the aquatic removal.
Okay, and to go along with that, you wrote on your letter, finally, landowners are further responsible for removal of all obstructions to the district management system caused by work of the landowner or failure to maintain invasive plants and migrate to district lands. We were told not to go in our ditch and take anything out. This kind of sounds like you're telling us to. Which is it?
Well, my position is that if plants were purposely planted by a landowner 50, 60, 70 years ago, they had no problem maintaining on their side of the property line, but they didn't take any effort to maintain them on the other side, and now they have invaded the district's facilities and are beginning to cause issues with flow of water.
We have 2 or 3 feet of land before you get to the ditch, which is your property. I have a fence there. So I need to go on the other side of the fence and clean that 3 foot before it gets to the ditch?
If you have invasive plants,
I didn't plant anything there, that's just normal stuff that's gone through since 1980.
Give them the example of the windrows with the Australian pines, which is a big thing.
yeah, the Australian pines is a big offender.
Yeah.
And 99% of the Australian pines that invade our system were purposely planted 40, 50 years ago by a farmer at some point in time.
This is just oaks and pines and
Oaks and pines are not
vines
the
that have grown
issue.
in over the years.
Oaks and pines are not the issue.
Okay.
Mark, before we move on to bigger ditch, I want to give somebody else a chance here, but does anybody want to address U6? If not, I will. We got 19 days on U6. Actually, over 10 of it was the second half of U6, which is 113 in U. We got 19 days of ditch diggers out there. Somebody's got to say it.
Yes, I've been informed of some concerns of the landowners regarding the operator's performance.
We'll leave it at that. I just wanted to.
Grant first.
Yeah, on that line, I went down and found 512 a few weeks ago, and he was working on 89th, but I didn't know he was working on 89th. I found him at the end of 85th, and when he came out, he was all the way down to the end. And when he came out, he introduced himself. He was talking to Rob. I introduced myself. I said, are you down here cleaning the ditch? He goes, no, I went down there to take a leak. I said, you came all the way from 89th to 85th to take a leak, all the way down to the end. I said, I know you're not cleaning the ditch, but you're to clean this ditch. And he said, yeah. I said, so, one, I've asked you this question too, when they were cleaning out Park Lateral, where are the porta pots for these people to defecate in? And you said they don't do that. Those were your words. I said, well, these guys work for 8 hours, so they don't have to go to the bathroom. I said, it's illegal to defecate on private or public land. So I don't know if the district allows
that to happen. The Park Lateral crew had a makeshift pallet thing set up with a bathroom and toilet seat on it, and that's where they were going. We're not living back in the 1900s or the 1800s. We have rules, we have laws. We have
In that case, that would have been the contractor's responsibility to put up with that for the staff.
Well, I brought it up, and it wasn't to the manager of the district. If you want me to go talk to the contractor, then put me in charge of the manager, and then I'm gonna go talk to the contractor.
Is that Frank back then?
I'm sorry?
Is that Frank?
That was me. That was me.
No. So, my other thing is, like, he understood, because I understand you're mad at paying $37. No, I'm not really mad at paying $37. I'm not pissed off at paying for something. I'm pissed off because I'm paying for something I'm not getting anything.
Usually do.
Donut.
Mark,
Big donut.
Go ahead.
And that's why I was running. That's one of the main reasons why I was running. Is because we're paying for stuff and we're not getting anything. We've been paying for stuff. I didn't, but people are packing that. There's been decades of neglect by the board, because the buck
You've
stops.
established that.
The buck stops at the
You
board.
conceded that, so
All
let's
right,
not go back and.
I know, but you're
I
trying to put conditions on people. It's like, look, you're putting conditions on people that you allowed it to happen. But if you allow things to happen and let people get away with it for decades, I mean, how are you gonna do that?
Those people aren't sitting up here today, so thank you very much for your comment.
This young lady here, next to Grant.
Yeah, yes, I went out today and I looked at all the ditches on your law that you would say that you have cleaned since January. I could only look from January until now. And I just wanted to say that the funniest part of this, and it makes us want to cry, is that, yeah, your digger put 18 days on ditch, it's U6 or 113. If you would go look, that was the most days on any ditch. And if you would go see that, if there's grass, there's no trees, there's no obstruction, there's no excuse for 18 days on that ditch. There's none.
Nobody lives down there.
And wait guys,
Sorry.
from January until now, you spent 42 and a half days west of Park Lateral on 4 ditches. 42 days. Any real ditch digger would laugh at that. So Mr. Rob is not being managed by you. It's not happening. Because the rest of the ditches that are either east of Park Lateral or east of Babcock or east of Willow, well, I cheated a little bit on 85th Street, there was 18 days in the populated areas. 18 days since Christmas. So I don't think you're doing your job. I don't think you're going to meet your deadline in September. And I've heard it in your mouth saying that, oh, that's okay if I don't make it. I'll just extend that deadline out there. But we want our ditches clean. And I just want to go about it a little different. And I've even inspected some of the ditches that Rob has done. And even the ditch 85th Street that was done from end to end still has areas where it's not clean. But your wonderful on 113th Street, U6 looks beautiful. That's all. Wow.
What she's trying to tell you about that, you've got 85th Street, Cowpens, the tower. The last portion of it has not even been done, but you've got it colored blue, and that would be U20. You got things colored that aren't done.
And 89th is cleaned all the way through because I lit the fire. Rob started cleaning ditches. I did more in 5 minutes than he's done since October. I don't know. At the end of the ditch, the ditch is wide. At the end of the ditch, it's a foot and a foot and a half. So we get rain, it's got a bottleneck. So all that ditch digging was for nothing.
Excuse me, one last thing. I want to tell you, Mr. Mathis, not hard to oversee that gentleman, because I did your January through May ditches in less than 2 hours. And I looked at a lot of ditch. Okay, I reviewed that sequence of work, and I don't think personally we as a district are getting our money's worth. You guys need to know that. I know that you don't want to do anything about it, but we really want you to say that we're going to just keep yelling louder and louder until you do.
But not raise our taxes.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
I do have a comment as well. One of the reasons that people are so upset about the fact that we don't feel Fellsmere Joint Ventures and or the board is doing right by us, it's not only the time that it's taking to do the ditches and the lack of ongoing work or progressive work. A lot of the ditches that are being cleaned are on property or adjacent to property that's owned by Fellsmere Joint Ventures. The 85th Street ditches that they were just talking about, Fellsmere Joint Ventures has 800 acres along that last ditch that he cleaned, that he spent 10 days cleaning. There's another one of the properties up further north, I think it's U6, yeah, 113th, that abuts up to Fellsmere Joint Ventures, and U2, which is 121st Street west of Park Lateral, that is adjacent to Fellsmere Joint Ventures, but it's also ING Enterprises, which is all the orange groves. People don't live there. It's been dry. Why are the ditches that we have not being cleaned, and why is it that all the time is being spent presumably or apparently at the farms?
First, could I just correct, I mean, that cleaning on 113th Street there, that we don't have that property there. I mean, we're west of Lateral View there, and everything's draining from east to west, so that didn't do anything for the farm. I just want to correct that misperception.
Everything from there drains into your water farm. All the ditches that are cleaning, what she's trying to make a point of is, all the new ditches are draining into the pickup for the water farm. Greg, do you know anything about the sale of the IMG or Phoenix Grove?
No, I don't. That would be my business to
No, I just
comment on
want
that. But you seem to be suspicious of the water farm.
No, I'm not suspicious of it.
Okay. I mean, we're cleaning the water and then sending it to Headwaters Lake so that you can keep the water management district happy and content that the water being discharged into Indian River is getting some cleaning, that we're reducing nutrients.
But we need to stop giving the small landowners the bad rap of the nitrogen and stuff. Whenever all the grow blocks out there with 512, which you own, are the ones that are putting all the nitrogen in you.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
Yes.
How can you say it's not?
Yeah.
No matter where you put it in at, there's a thing called hard pan, and it travels underneath the ground to the water. But I'm not trying to argue with
The
you.
ditches drain from east to west, so that water is draining to the railroad canal, which is well west, and then it's pumped into
Your land,
Headwaters Lake.
your land there, your land there. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. The stuff behind the shrimp farms, the Park Lateral, all the new grow blocks and stuff. I understand what you're saying. You're sending it out as, is that last structure that, at Main Canal, or the grade, is that a scrubber system that pumps, the pumps at the elephant farm, are they any type of scrubber system like clean water?
No, but that water goes west.
West, I know it
Goes
does.
west.
I know it does.
But there is water from the Fellsmere Joint Ventures side of lateral U. That comes into lateral U because we've got pictures of the culverts.
So there were 2 days in the last 15 years where that was open, that was related to the water farm project, because the city district wanted to send out their people to make sure that the system was operating. And as we were testing things, we had a pump repair that we needed to make. We were releasing water from the irrigation canal into the U canal for those 2 days for the purpose of being able to lower the level in that ditch to work on that pump. But at the same time, we were running the pumps and pulling that water back in and putting it into the water farm. Trust me, we don't want to ever let any water go from the farm, because back in March, and that's right through April, as you all know, we had a heck of a drought. So the last thing we'd be doing is letting go of any water. But St. John's wanted to test the system and make sure that the water farm operation was as presented with the pumps. So that's what we had to do, 2 days in March. Yes?
On that note, it's like when we found out about that and it was presented to Mark, we had no idea that was happening. So I guess my point is, it seems to be like it's always, maybe it's normal for you, maybe it just seems like that's just the way things are done, the way were things done, but you're actually using the canal. For, in other words, you just did something without even, like, let's notify, and let's make sure, like, you went on water, in other words, you're controlling the district, is what it seems like. That is water control district property, and the culvert and the gate at the end of 85th, just south of 85th, in the Landowner Canal, is in water control district land. It doesn't belong to Fellsmere Joint Ventures. It belongs to the water control district.
Well,
you see my point?
No, I agree with your point.
I can't go in there. I don't own that property.
No. So when Mark informed me of that, I investigated, and I did tell the manager, hey, you need to let them know if you're going to do that, because they're not going to understand.
There has to be there has to be some sort of a system, a log that has to be going through there, and everything. I mean, it has to be, everything has to be documented. And I mean, there's got to be records. I mean, I don't know. We still don't know what the records are. I asked him back in November, where's the records for all the last 5 years from all the receipts and invoices and everything for the farm when he took over. And he said, I don't know where they're at. And I got a hold of the special districts, and he said they send them everything electronically. And I'm like, so, okay, so you don't know where they're at. He said they were out in some building out in the farm somewhere, in a file. And Frank Shapiro says they're not out in the field in the farm someplace. I emailed him everything, and he got everything electronically from special districts for the last 5 years. I don't know where, we just don't know where that's at.
I have a question. I've only been in Fellsmere 5.5 years, and maybe your attorney here, Seth and I know each other, could explain how exactly your assessments work. Because when I would look back at the minutes, it looked like it was 2018, 2019 timeframe when it actually was different for everybody in the service area as far as done by who gets the maintenance, who doesn't, versus now. I mean, we'll get to it later. He's got 2 resolutions there with 2 different amounts of what we want to approve in the public hearing. But the way I read the statutes, and correct me if I'm wrong, and as a group that we've included that in the letter that you guys have gotten, everybody should be paying the same regardless of the maintenance they're getting, because it's about being a part of the system as a whole, according to the, now, unless there's an engineering evaluation done and then it's brought before the public and then it's brought before a court to change boundaries or stuff. I don't know the specifics of it. All I know is what I've been reading. But there's some of us that feel we're not getting any maintenance, so why should we pay? If that's Fellsmere Farms' point of view. So I just want some clarity to understand what the whole purpose in the assessment is and why certain people think they should get less than others, regardless of whether you're the landowner on the board or whatever. I just wanted some clarity there, that's all.
It's about the benefits received and the cost to the district. So with our property west of lateral U, all of that water is getting pumped into the headwaters lake that then flows to the St. John's River. So we're not impacting the system. As well, we don't get any maintenance and haven't had any maintenance in many years.
Well, can you define the maintenance for me? Just, is that like, okay, you have parcel X, Y, Z, and that gets no maintenance, so that you can write that one off as a benefit that you shouldn't have to pay for? Or is it, you know, as a whole, the whole 30,000 acres over there, or whatever it is, we do all our own maintenance, so we don't need to pay as much as you guys? I mean, I'm trying to understand how that works.
Because the district's not incurring any cost to do maintenance, nor is that water impacting a canal maintained by the district. So that's the basic logic of it, with different rates for different properties.
Is that how you understand it, Seth?
I don't understand it at all, Brent.
Well, with 298, I would think, in water control plans and boundaries and stuff, I would think everybody be the same unless there's been some legal action to change that. That's all I'm asking statutorily, because a lot of us in here feel we're not getting that maintenance either.
Yeah.
Nor are we allowed to do it ourselves. So that's what I'm getting at. That's why people are upset, because here we are 2 years in, and everybody, I mean, I got full-grown cabbage trees in my ditch, but it's green according to his map. I don't understand. How do you judge the fact that you're doing your own maintenance over there and you don't need us to do it as a district, not us personally, of course, and we got to pay extra assessments, but we don't see any work being done in our immediate neighborhoods anyways. I mean, that's why we're doing what we're doing. That's why we're upset.
I cannot speak as to the maintenance that's being done on any particular.
Okay, well,
I understand, I hear you, you're saying it's not being done, certainly.
So who's gonna follow up? When are we gonna hear?
I'm sorry, you said it again,
Who's gonna follow up on it? So when are we gonna hear
Back from anybody. So we can get things moving on our side.
Well, I'm gonna ride with Mark and take a look at these issues and these sites that you've identified, where you're saying no maintenance is being done. Have to look at it and see, and try to come to understanding if it hasn't been done, why hasn't it been done.
You have ditches that have been cleaned in the last 5 to 10 years, and then you have other ones that have grown shut. Hey, what was the answer though? Is there a scrubber at the elephant farm or not, or is it just pumps? Like a scrubber, I maybe not using the right terminology. Is it being treated, or are you pulling out a vest for the water farm too, or is it?
That water goes to Headwaters Lake, and Headwaters.
But there's no scrubber system, it's just pumps?
Okay. And
So we're spitting untreated water into St. John's, what you're saying, right? It's not being scrubbed. I'm just asking, Rick, it's not being scrubbed.
that is correct, and it's the best fishing in the country.
Oh, yeah,
That's right.
it's up full of well water all the time, I know, I see it.
Grant?
We're paying special district of $72,000 a year. And now you hired Mr. Mathis, and you're paying him $100,000 plus per year, plus benefits, insurance, and retirement. And I can probably put a number on that retirement. I mean, I was on our pension board for 10 years when I was in the fire service. So FRS and 175 mirror each other. But I want to know, for at least 30,000 plus benefits, what have we received? What benefits have what did we get for that money? And the only thing that I can personally come up with, and I've tried, is the fact that we got Rob doing ditches today more than what he did back then. Because he was, what I understand, I was told he was like an emergency guy, and maintenance, and he did a bunch of other stuff, so he wore different hats. So if that's the case, I'm like, well, Frank Sakuma wasn't a hands-on guy. He was here not all 6 days a week or 5 days a week. And Mark is now taking Fridays off, and so he's only here 4 days a week. And he's also mentioned the fact that he's like, well, why can't why can't you get on Rob? Because, Rob's not the fastest guy around, and he hides, and we watched him, And I'm like, well, if that's what he brought him in here for, he's not doing a good job of that either. We could have just left it at Frank Sakuma, and I could write a schedule off for Rob and go, here, Rob, here's your monthly schedule. I'll be back once a week to check in. That's what I do. I spent less than 10 minutes, left my house, went down and found him, and just didn't chew him. I just told him, you need to start cleaning ditches. I know you're going to retire in September. I got it. I retired. You worked a long time. But I didn't slack off 6 months, because if I slacked off 6 months, people probably would have died.
Did you relay that to Mark when it was contemporaneous, when it was happening, rather than now? How long ago was that? That would have been the time to call Mark. That's what his job is.
Well, I tell you what, I've suggested 2 things that Mark doesn't really have. I said, why don't you paint about a ditch?
Well,
figure out what
it's the first I'm hearing about it.
Yeah.
I have no direct knowledge.
Right.
So thank you very much. I think obviously we need to have some consideration for that topic. News to it.
Then I have a question on fees. If we're going to be getting a lot more money from the state park, if that happens, why did you have to raise our fees this year?
Well, that's really the next matter on the agenda. We are hopeful of getting a successful assessment on the state park, but frankly, their legal team is objecting to that, and it gets to be a pretty complicated situation in dealing with the district. If we're finishing on the other, let's go ahead. I did the St. John's River Water Management District was going to send their general counsel to this meeting, and I told her that it was going to be a long meeting, but when we come to that item on the agenda, I would call her so she could listen to the discussion. She'd be coming from Jacksonville, and that I just felt professional courtesy.
If it does happen, will you reduce ours? Will we ever see a reduction?
I can't promise you that.
Consider it.
Well, costs are cost. I'm hearing more about efficiency being an issue than really the cost, but the cost of everything's gone up in the last 7 years.
What we've been paying is not getting anything, so that's why adding more to it is frustrating. You're adding more, we're paying more for nothing.
Yeah.
That's why they're frustrated.
Yeah, I agree that's not acceptable. We gotta do better. Are we ready to move on to the state park?
Back in January, we were authorized to start the conversation with the St. John's District again.
Can you hear?
And we started at a high level with the conversation with the meeting, and then we moved down staff level. We've had 2 meetings now with General Counsel, the Director, and the Assistant Director of the St. John's Water Management District. And they're actively working on resurrecting a project idea to reduce the flow of water coming from the park. We're working with the park ranger to see if there's some energies to combine projects together to get more bang for the buck. And we'll be setting up more conversations over the month of June and July, to talk both about the project as well as potential assessment. And in the mix of all these conversations is an interlocal agreement that exists between the districts and interpretation of that interlocal agreements in question. And that's where we need to find a resolution to be able to talk further about the assessment. So at this time, that's pretty much the update. We'll have more updates with each meeting as we talk with them more. That's what I'll have to share this time.
Thank you, Mark. And given that Seth Bain has just started in terms of his legal analysis, we'll have Seth take a look at the interlocal agreement that is between Fellsmere Water Control District and the St. John's River Water Management District. But obviously, it would be premature to make any suggestions or take any action at this time, so our legal counsel has the opportunity to learn about that agreement. So if there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and close out this item. Yes. Okay. Aaron, any questions? Aaron? I can hear you if you have me on mute. Okay, that's okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and sign off. That is the end of our discussion on the St. John's. Okay, thank you.
Now that you've hung up on St. John's, I'll say to the crowd here that this is a fight we've been taking to the water management districts, several districts. I haven't seen the interlocal, so I'm not ready to opine on what it says or what that is. There's a quote ruling out there that says the water management districts are supposed to be paying assessments, but that interlocal agreement may impact that. So I'll absolutely be in your corner fighting to make sure that there's an opportunity to make them pay their share, that we will.
Thank you, Seth.
Yep.
Mark, you wanted to put future workshops on the agenda?
Yes, thank you very much for that. It was always my intent, again, it's not just my idea, but also the core group of citizens that I meet with regularly to have more opportunity for their input, not at the last minute when decisions are made, but as policies are being developed. And so there are a number of issues that we all know are outstanding. And I think having an opportunity to have a conversation outside of the decision-making meeting without the pressure of decisions, but just to lay the issues out, have hopefully a constructive conversation with the board and with the public to be able to formulate policies that benefit the landowners, especially through your input. And future ideas could be water control plan issues, it could be operational issues, it could be ethic issues, whatever is the pleasure of the board when we actually schedule a workshop. What I would ask is that on the upcoming resolution, if you're interested in ideas, that we just pick, a few dates to add to that calendar meeting so that I could advertise them up front, so that we can start working on the subject matter and working with this board to create what we will be talking about at the first workshop.
Mark and I had a discussion about this, and we got maybe 3 a year. Budget would be one of them. But we've got to do something to stop these meetings. I mean, I need an interpreter right now. I mean, we've got to do something to be effective, cut the time out. People are leaving. We lose track of what's going on. We got to attack the issues. But that may be, the workshop may be a big help to that. I know Mark meets with you guys periodically. I don't know if that's not being effective. I thought it was. So anyway, you guys, I hate this as much as you do. So,
Thank you, John.
I live here too. Okay. So will we add, is that, I guess we need that.
We can talk further when we do the resolution.
Yeah.
So I'm asking for a motion now. We have a resolution later for the upcoming calendar for next year. And we just have that conversation.
Okay, I think we're into the consent agenda, item J, the fiscal year 2024-2025 audit.
I would just add item J2 off the consent so we can talk about the workshop dates. Normally you don't talk about consent items, just here to approve and match, but I'd like to push J2 for a conversation on the annual meeting schedule so we can talk about the workshop. Of course, if there's any questions on the audit, I'll be glad to answer them best I can. We do not have in our audit engagement, and we do not pay the auditor to come to the presentation.
I would just like to speak to that since I'm CPA. It's a all is good in that respect. So, moving on.
Okay, thank you, John. So you're looking at the resolution for the annual meeting schedule?
Yes, there are resolution 2024-2516, which is our list of meetings. One of the things I mentioned to you early on was hoping to move the meetings from Thursday to a different day. I've currently selected a Tuesday, so all these dates are Tuesdays. So if that works for you, we would just need to discuss where to slide in the 3 or so, or whether we want
Continue to meet here.
Yeah, we'll continue to meet here as long as we have the need for it, yes.
I think we obviously need to do something ahead of time, make sure the microphones and stuff are ready rather than the last minute. I know you got a lot of stuff on your plate today, but,
The funny thing is, when you go out in the back room, they're all fully charged and it says they're working, so. I figure I need to be trained again.
I would propose that we pick months that we don't already have a meeting, so that we would do it, so, not double up months, so I don't have any other preference for any month.
I would just say that we don't have one too soon, so that we have time to prepare. I'd like to be with the core group to maybe talk about what they'd like to hit first in the workshop, and maybe bring that back to you at the July meeting, and then maybe schedule a workshop for August at the earliest, or maybe October.
I think August. Yeah. I don't think putting it off is gonna make anybody happy.
Mark, so you're holding off on setting the calendar?
No, we're going to approve the calendar. No, we're going to approve it today. We're not talking about amending it now to add some workshop dates.
I think that you said Tuesdays, and the first meeting is a Tuesday, but I think whenever I looked at the next meeting after that, it was Thursday. I thought it was gonna start going to Tuesday.
No, I have most all Tuesday here, unless I somehow
All Tuesday?
do this right calendar, which could be happening.
Check the website. Check the website.
Just verify the Tuesday
I
matches.
haven't loaded these meeting dates in there yet, so the
Oh,
website
it's on the website?
needs updating.
Hey, Mark, November 11th is Veterans Day,
Okay.
so I think we should honor that.
Yeah, the 9/11, and wasn't that a Tuesday, or was Thursday instead of Tuesday?
Again, I'll fix the dates if I need to fix the dates.
I know a lot of us attend the city council meetings too, and I don't know if you looked at their scheduling too.
Well, that's why another reason I want to move it off to Thursdays and chose not to do Wednesdays, because they have council meetings on Thursdays and planning
okay.
commissions on Wednesdays.
But we're gonna have to do, I think, something different on
We're
November
going to do the
Tuesday.
first Tuesday or the third Tuesday in November.
We do it. We have a board meeting in December.
No, the board meeting in December, November, and then January.
Oh, I think we have a board meeting. in November.
Yeah, and November 4th is election day.
So we'll do the 18th.
Okay, November 18th, that's not Thanksgiving.
So generally speaking, other than special days, they're being converted to the second Tuesday instead of the second Thursday. So if I list a date, the intent of this motion and the resolution will be that regular meetings on the second Tuesday, and I'll fix the dates on the resolution that gets signed if there needs to be a fix, except for November, which is now going to be the 18th.
So we have a workshop in August.
The second Tuesday would be our recommendation, the second Tuesday.
So,
And what other months would you want? I would say let's have at least a quarter between each workshop to give us time to prepare.
yeah, I mean, one every 4 months. We have 3.
So it could be in December,
First Tuesday, second Tuesday.
second Tuesday. And if you want to do one more, we can do,
We're typically going to be looking at the budget in the May meeting. So we have a workshop in April. We have a board meeting in March.
well, we're going to talk a little bit here in a few minutes about adjusting our normal budget cycle. So yes, we could have a workshop in April, it wouldn't be a problem. We're fine.
Does that sound agreeable to everybody?
I think so, so right now we got August workshop, December, and April, is that right?
motion to approve the resolution 2024-2025
As amended.
16 as amended.
That's so moved.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay, any old business? None? Okay, any new business? We have health insurance renewal.
Yes, this was not, it was going to be on the March agenda, but because we had to cancel that, I had to take an action on a renewal. It can be undone, so it's not too late to undo it if you don't like the decision that's made. But essentially, I changed the insurance program to save about $20,000 a year for the district. That was done in a variety of different ways. One was by the insurance change, the other was by having fewer people being insured, with my daughter aging out, and also some reduction in costs for the new employee, which we anticipate will probably be younger than Rob, so his health insurance will be cheaper. But all together, all the various items had quite a bit of savings. The program I went to was a high deductible health savings account linked insurance program. And with some of the savings, I have programmed, it's in the budget to provide a seed for the health savings account. Still leaving the same amount of deductible that will be under the current plan. So I didn't fund the entire deductible, just living it to where it is today. And then in future years, we can continue to find savings through adjustments to cost share and things of that nature. But I'm pretty happy with the savings we got this year on this particular program change.
How many people are on that insurance?
Just the two employees,
So 2 employees?
plus my wife. It's me and my spouse on mine, and Rob.
Mark and I we had a telephonic discussion about that, and, obviously it makes sense to save money. And the other thing was, Mark was conscious not to try and brutalize the benefits by doing the high deductible and the health insurance, the health savings account, HSA. And blending some of that back to the employees to soften that up, I think it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, we're still saving.
Still saving chunks of that,
Change,
yeah.
so. I mean, do we need to approve that as a board, do you think?
I would prefer to have a motion and a vote to approve it.
So moved.
Second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, next item is proposals for continuing engineering and surveying services.
So this was the conversation I mentioned during the reorganization that we would have to talk about the district engineer. There are two options at this point. I'm recommending an option which I feel, again, the only reason I'm recommending it is because it saves money. There are concerns that have been expressed about potential conflicts of interest, about me serving too many roles in the district at a staff level. So that's something for the board to consider. I don't see the conflict myself. I do half the engineering already through the standard permit reviews. Nothing's going to change with regards to assigning me as district engineer, other than I won't have somebody sitting here being paid money, and I won't have the engineer write the engineer's report. I'll write the engineer's report. Between those two things alone, it's probably about $6,000 savings. If you want to stay with the consultant as the district engineer, it's your option, but we would have to advertise that as a specific RFP, and we wouldn't be able to get them selected until the July meeting. And that's why if we go that route, I just twist George's arm and stay on until the July meeting. So those are our options. The staff's recommending that.
For discussion.
Okay, I think well, I'll second it for discussion.
It seems to make sense that we should make this easier to respond to connection requests or whatever we got Mark's time. Again, my understanding is that you have a big permit application, so it will still go through the outside consulting engineer.
If they're technical permits, they go to the outside engineer.
So, I don't think this conflict of interest, I don't think you need your pocket for that. That's maybe a clearer way to say it. So I think it makes sense. I think it helps him justify his value.
Yes.
So the public, as a group, we include that in our packet. It's not a conflict for you to be the engineer too, Mark. But when you read what you put out to the public, you're the one ranking your competition and then recommending yourself. That's the way it reads. And your attorney can look at it later on, but that's the way the public reads it. And that, to me, is a violation of CCNA.
Interpretation is the RFP on the street is not to select a district engineer. The RFP on the street is to select continuing engineers.
Correct.
That's not the district engineer, it's continuing engineers.
Which is a CCNA issue. It's a violation of 278 for you to rank somebody that's competing with yourself. You can't be on a ranking committee. And the attorney can correct me if I'm wrong.
The continuing engineer.
Well, that's what it says in the agenda. Am I reading it right? It says right here, designate Mark Mathis as district engineer and select one or more firms for continuing services.
Right.
So
they're not competing with me, they're there to help me.
Anytime you're applying for a job.
Continuing services.
yeah. So what's the purpose in having two engineers then? Or paying two parties then? Why even do that?
Well, he's already on salary, and he can do the more administrative things such as culvert.
Well, I understand. I do the same thing. I'm just saying that.
I only proposed this to save money.
Oh, no, I agree. I'm not saying you're not qualified or anything, but the way it read, it looked like that you ranked all these employees, these other people against yourself, so, yeah.
I think it's just a misinterpretation.
But it could be an interpretation on my end, but when I looked at it, it looked like you got all these ranking RFQs in and then you ranked yourself above them, you know what I mean?
If they wanted to hire a district engineer as a consultant, then we'd have to do a new RFP. I just said that.
Well, you just said that, but I'm just saying what was in the packet to the public. That's what I'm questioning.
If the board wishes to maintain the corridors, they can be retained for another year.
I would just like to clarify for you, we had this discussion, because I questioned the same type of thing, and I feel it's clear to me, so I'm prepared to vote on it. Maybe the language wasn't clear to you, or maybe you used the wrong word, I don't know, but I didn't understand the intent.
Yeah.
So, I'm good with it.
Yeah, and my personal feeling on it is to try it on a, let's call it probationary basis for 90 days and see how things come up. But I understand what Mark's saying, and I believe there is potential to save some money, but we'll just have to see what the effect is overall on the services when there's already pretty strong feelings about efficiencies on operation matters. So we're going to have to, I would suggest that I'll make a motion to do it, but on a 90-day trial.
I already made the motion.
Okay, sorry.
No, I don't need to.
Okay.
Would you like to amend your motion for the 90-day restriction that Greg's
I
offered?
consider it day to day, we can change next week.
It's free, you can.
Yeah, so
But just so it's understood by everybody, be revisiting this issue pretty soon. Hopefully,
hopefully it goes smoothly, yeah.
My understanding from what I'm hearing is there's concern that I'm spreading too thin and not being able to oversee and manage the operations by taking on more duties that could cause an impact in the operations.
You are.
Yeah.
Can't manage Rob. Say that.
Yeah.
Can't manage Rob at all.
It's lack of trust.
Why are you failing at management? You can't even manage Rob, he's still not doing dishes.
9 positions will not get it done. It's a conflict of interest, no matter what it says.
That's a point to be taken.
at this point, we got a motion and a second, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Matter what we say.
Can I just ask a point for clarification?
Yes.
If Mark, you're on a salary, which we all understand, so on the record, then your salary is not going to go up
No, it is.
because you
$6,000.
put another hat.
That's correct, ma'am. At the July meeting, we'll be adopting a number of resolutions. One of them will be the pay resolution for this coming year. It'll be reflected on that.
There would be a cost of living adjustment, I'm not gonna say it won't.
He's not getting paid extra for doing the
But
engineering.
you're not paying extra to him as an engineer, no, that's not the intent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
That makes sense to me.
Public hearings.
So before we start the public hearings, if you're okay, I'd like to maybe talk a little bit about the potential change in process that I'd like to propose. We do have by law a requirement to provide to the property appraiser, tax collector, assessment. We know through talking with them and through past practice that we have till mid-September to make adjustments, but they can go down and up. And it's a common practice at local governments that you do your maximum assessment and then you, a few months later, adopt your budget, and more often than not, the assessment is lower at that time because you have the final numbers in and you can make, your informed decision on where you need to be to collect the revenue you need to collect. We've always done both the assessment and the budget in May. We can still go that route. It's still 100% legal by statute. But by postponing for September and having a maximum assessment in May, you basically are allowing us to work a little bit longer, get a little bit more data, refine our pencil a little bit more, and hopefully find a way to take the maximum assessment and come back in September when we do the final approval of the budget with a lower assessment. It also, in this particular year, gives us more time to talk to St. John's and try to get that resolved so there's not an appeal in a manner that would cause us not to be able to collect those revenues. And it also, the third benefit is that the residents then also benefit from receiving the trim notice from the county that has all the data in it, including a specific calculation of what their assessment would be from us based on the final assessment level, not the draft one or the maximum we do in May. So it's got multiple benefits by separating them out in time. And if we did that, what would happen tonight is that we would have the discussion on the budget, but we would continue the hearing or either close without action and re-advertise the hearing later. And then we would then act upon the assessment resolution with full knowledge that we have the ability to come back and adjust that lower, not higher, but lower, if we come back with final budget numbers in September that would justify a lower assessment.
I would just also reference you to your trim notice that you get usually at the end of August, 1st of September. You'll always see in there that if the budget is not changed, or here's what last year's assessment was, here's what the maximum assessment will be, and then when you get your tax bill, you get the real number. So I think that's following out. I think more time for us in this case, talk about some of the stuff with spraying, different contractors. I think that makes good sense from a standpoint of practice. So I would support that.
So in that regard, I know that we're trying not to put stuff on the table too much, but I'd ask if you would have a recommendation. Should we continue the budget hearing or close it and just re-advertise it a couple months later?
I think you can continue it for the final hearing. I think the recommendation is you're adopting a proposed budget this evening. I mean, that's what's on the table today is a proposed budget. And you said the maximum assessment cap, so that's what we're working from today. So you put that on the table. Then you said you come back for the final assessment resolution in September, and then provide it to the tax collector based on that final budget. So
You're comfortable with the table in the hearing, which the reason I bring this up is because when you table it here, my understanding is you don't have to re-advertise because you made the notice and the date certain at this hearing, so it just precludes you from having to re-advertise.
that's correct. We may re-notice it anyway, but
Right.
Well, is there any deadlines you have to meet doing that? That's why.
Yes, there is. September, I think it's 15th. I have to look at the code.
Okay. For the proposed budget? Is that what you're saying? Your table of the proposed budget that we're talking about?
We'll still talk about it here today right now. We're not going to not talk about it because we can kind of use this as.
I just want to make sure you're not missing any deadlines. That's why I'm bringing that up, because I know where I'm at,
Why would we make a proposal and miss deadlines?
Well, no. Some statutes or tariffs, ordinances, or whatever you have that you guys are under have certain dates you have to meet by proposed budget, so forth.
Make sure we coordinate with
Yeah, that's all I'm
Our
asking.
requirement is a June 1 submittal of the assessment tax roll to the tax collector property appraiser, but we have the need to amend it. Lower.
Well, the reason I ask is you have two resolutions with the same number but two different amounts on your board pad. So which one are you going with?
Well, that's what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
So with that, we can go ahead and start conversation on 2024-25. If you'd like, I can make a presentation on it, the proposed budget. budget year, and again, I do feel there is some fat, so I do feel comfortable to say that I would expect a reduction from whatever maximum assessment we set today. But in this regard, we have our budget broken down into two categories: administrative expenses and operating or maintenance expenses. And this year, our my eyes are very good. It looks like we're coming in just about $7,000 higher on the administrative side, which as a percent is 3%. So it's maybe a 3% increase on the administrative side. And that was primarily due to a lot of savings on the operator, being a younger operator, saving health insurance, and also his salary would be probably lower, obviously being a new employee.
That's not administrative.
Oh, that's not, you're correct, that's an operating. So most of it was in the insurance savings, 7,000 at least was. And so, if you have any questions about it, a lot of it's about the same. I did increase the legal and professional because we're in a period of a lot of issues going on, and we'll be relying on the district attorney a lot more than normal. So I put in some additional funds there, and we also added a little bit more for the engineering because a lot of the things that we may want to do this coming year will require some engineering assistance. For example, if we want to do a water control plan amendment to analyze the system for a build-out scenario, because there's a lot of concern I'm hearing about, is our system adequate with all the growth coming to this area, and are we considering that? Obviously that would require some modeling, which we would use So again, we just bumped that up a little bit.
Just on that issue, because I read that in one of the notes, you cannot, at least developments that are coming, you're going to have retention on site. They're not going to release any more water into the lateral system, the canals, than they are now. I mean, there's a whole set of records. I mean, we've got over 24 hours, blah, 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 blah. The engineers can tell you that. But it's not, if we have more houses, that automatically run more water into the set laterals. And I just think that seems to be a misnomer.
Yeah, so there are some cases where you can have growth that would impact it. We do have some large tracts of agricultural. Somebody mentioned ING earlier, that's up for sale. That could very easily become a 5-acre ranchette without stormwater treatment system. So there could be some, but certainly not major developments that you're referring to that would be coming out of the city. Yes, they would be holding the water back.
I mean, some area states isn't going to invest more water without control.
So on operation is where I think the big, and it wasn't terribly big, but definitely a big increase. It was actually, I will say it was a big increase because last year it was at 591. So yeah, I misread the 891. So yes, it was a big increase. And what were those increases? Well, and I think this is where we're going to find some savings because I'm still getting some estimates in on some of these items. And so as these estimates come in, I'm more educated to be able to put proper numbers. For example, and the other thing I like to say about this is this gets us back to what has been the standard of maintenance prior to the downfall, you might say, over the last 5 to 10 years. Basically, 2 sprays a year and constant mechanical work where needed on a priority basis and a regular scheduled cycle when you're not on emergencies. And obviously, prices have gone up on a lot of things, so I think some of my escalation factors might have been a little high. My assumptions on inflation, for example, on some of these might be a little high. But as I get these estimates in over the next month or two, I think some of these may go down. For example, the sublateral spraying, I have that down as $180,000. That's for 2 separate sprays, so that's $90,000 a spray. I'm thinking I can get that for 50 to 60. So, you could almost have close to 80,000 savings there if I can get those estimates at that level.
You say the same thing that you keep in mind on mowing, that you've got $100,000.
Yeah, and so mowing again is our, and again, listening to the aquatic weed experts, you want to mow before you spray, because otherwise your spray gets hit by tall grass and doesn't hit the water where you want it to hit. So they need to have that clear window. So both spraying, both mowing as well as the tree care. And the tree care, many people will realize is well beyond a single year solution. So I expect this 35,000 for tree care to probably roll over year to year until we actually get the trees under control. And there are three types of areas that need attention. There is the trees on the, well, I'll say the trees that block the spraying. That's the overhanging limbs and the trees that might either be growing in or on the maintenance side of the berm. That's one. The other is certain sublateral final lots have not been maintained in a while, and they have now overgrown. So there really isn't a maintenance path on some of these last lots. And there's actually a couple, particularly the railroad edge, that has a very long section that's not really very accessible. And so that's a second. And the, well, actually, that's the third, actually. The first one being the overhanging limbs, the second one being the, actually, the third one was the invasive, the Australian pine trees that they're taking over. And some of that would be hopefully addressed by the landowners or the developers, but others, we may have to do our own on that. So, again, I 35 is not going to get done. It's not going to get done. And that's one of the estimates I'm waiting on to see how much we can get for 35 this year. And canal tree maintenance, that's really basically to go back and bush hog the park lateral right away because it was left, as you recall, we stopped that contract with the Gopher Tortoise. So the 18 months will be over pretty soon. And I would recommend that, you know, we had two choices when we were talking about it before, just to let it go fallow until we do a major canal and then spend 100 or 20 or 200,000 to re-clear it, or spend a little bit now to get it in a mobile fashion and just mow it, you know, once a year to keep the trees from growing up. And so, you know, that's kind of where I've gone, that latter route. And so if that's not the route you choose, then that's 25 will come out of the budget.
I think that's very well. You just look at patch plan, if you don't mow it periodically, all the volunteer trees that come in, and we know what we've already gone through, so we don't want to.
And then obviously the savings I mentioned on the maintenance personnel earlier, with the new operator coming in. There has been suggestions that we, you know, consider, you know, trying to encourage and early retirement or buyout for Robert. I have proposed that, and he has declined it.
Well, if you've got performance issues, obviously, we've already heard about that, you need to address that.
Yes, and I have committed to a couple of the property owners in this core group to spot check them more frequently. I do spot check them when I'm out doing inspections, but I don't do inspections weekly, so that's how you get out.
I think you need to tell them a couple thousand of us in the eye watching it.
Oh, well, we have. I've talked to him about it. It's not that I haven't talked to him about the issue.
Okay.
I just have not talked to him myself.
Gotcha.
That's the only issue. I'm not saying anybody's not telling the truth here. I just haven't seen it. And I'm not going to reprimand somebody harshly on third
No, but
party.
he just needs to know that we've got a lot
Oh,
of
he
people
knows.
watching.
He knows. He definitely knows. That's a summary of this proposed budget. Now, the difference between the two budgets that are discussed that results in the different assessment levels are two items. One is the conversion consultant on the admin, 1519, and reserves, 6,000. I don't think we need to budget reserves this year because I feel with my estimate of finances through the balance of the year, we'll have close to $500,000 in the bank. And I can go into detail why we're going to have that, but it doesn't mean we need to have reserves this year. I think that's not a bad number. I'd say I would say go through the year and see what excess we have and maybe slowly build it up just by the fact we put in budgets instead of, you know, specifically budgeting a reserve. The other was a conversion consultant, and again, that one's really a discussion of the district structure and potentially leading to another effort to either split or overlay a improvement district on either all or some of the district. And when you do that, you generally need to have some specialty counsel to get you through that process. And so that's what that 50,000 was for.
And so that was my request. At this point, I'll just go ahead and strike that broad unless someone else wants to.
I concur.
conversion consultant will not have any funding for that conversion consultant.
Thank you.
Good.
And do I also have a consensus to have no reserves budgeted for this year? Now, what I'll do is I'll probably put some reserves in the budget, but they won't be from new taxes. They'll be from what we have in the bank already. So I'll probably put some in there, because you never know what's gonna happen. You might as well have it in the budget. If you don't use it, you don't use it. But it's not gonna be new tax revenue that will be there.
You know what I'm looking at? I don't see it. I see it pretty word, but there's nothing in common.
It might have been that, I maybe as a recommendation took it out, so maybe I didn't have that. So if you're okay with that, we'll just leave it out.
Yeah, I like the idea of having, better bite at the apple a little later in the year, and we'll have a better idea of that.
Now, would you be okay with me putting 100,000 reserves in the budget as reserves? So
Let's
that's.
just leave it as it is. Let's just see.
Okay, you're fine.
I am in favor of reserves, don't misunderstand.
That's fine.
But on your representation that we're gonna have carryover.
Yes, the only thing I'm getting to is that it's a lot different doing a budget amendment when you're increasing the total expenditures than if you're just moving money
We
around.
can just move it, if we find some savings somewhere else, we can move it into that category.
What I'm trying to clarify for you is that if it's not listed in here on the budget, it's not in the budget, it's not available to move around. You may have it in your bank account, but you can't move it into your budget because you didn't put it in your budget.
Okay, but we're not approving the budget
Tonight, correct.
What we do need to approve is assessment rates, but we're not gonna approve this budget. We're gonna come back in July and try to bring this fine too.
Yeah.
Approving a preliminary? Okay.
That's what it is.
Okay.
And so in that regard, even if we weren't approving it in final
So
form.
put $100 in there and we can amend the amount.
No, you can't. If you increase, let's just use the budget I'm looking at right now. You have total expenditures of, and again, I wish my glasses were better, $967,000, $748. If we spend one penny over that amount, that type of budget amendment is different than a budget amendment that just moves money from one line to another. And it doesn't mean we can't go through that more higher level budget amendment, but it's a much higher level
So
amendment.
give me your recommendation.
I said I would put 100,000 of reserves, cash in the bank reserves, not new revenue.
Which then raises the assessment.
No, it doesn't. It's cash in the bank reserves, not reserves built by assessment. Take some of that $500,000 we have in the bank.
So you
Put it in
don't
the-
budget.
If you don't budget, you can't
It's
spend
like,
it.
you don't want to spend it, it's reserved.
But if an emergency comes up, we have a blowout because of a hurricane,
Then we act on, we take the reserve, we take action on the reserve money.
then we can, since we put it in the budget, we can do that without a major issue.
Okay, whatever. I'm confused, so I'm in on that.
And we're not gonna finalize, so we're just gonna pass a preliminary budget. So we can go ahead and pass it.
Can I comment on the budget? I just have a
Yeah, go
question.
ahead, sorry.
On your maintenance budget there, you increased your machine lease. Did you get more hours out of it with doing
Yes,
that?
we got 1,500 hours a year.
Okay, up from 500, so you got 1,000 more hours?
15.
Per year or per contract?
Per year, so I have, basically, I'm picking up 3,000 additional hours over the course of the contract.
Okay. My next question is, you've talked about the new employee at $23 an hour, with assumes new employee at 42 years of age or younger. You're not going to get somebody that age or younger for 23. I mean, my son came out of high school at $23 working for the Disney Resort. As an employer of a special district, good luck. If you can get somebody for 23 an hour, I think you should budget for more than that, because you're not going to get anybody quality to do the work you need done for 23 an hour. So that's just a
What do you
suggestion.
recommend? What number do you think?
I would be budgeting 35 and hopefully come under that. Because you're not going to get anybody to apply, especially if they have an HASA and with a high deductible insurance. That's another benefit people look at with public sectors, and if they have to pay more to use it, it's going to be a little less attractive to come here. Just figured I'd throw that out there.
Grant?
Two things. You said Rob wasn't interested in the buyout. Did you offer him anything?
I didn't give him a specific number, I gave him the concept, and he wasn't interested because of its impact on social
So
security.
he doesn't know what to buy out of at all, you just have to, you take a buyout. There's no number, and say, hey, here's your buyout. Okay, and for the position, or replacement, you mentioned, just be careful, because you mentioned, we're looking for maybe like a younger guy, like, well, you can't discriminate against age.
Rob's supposed to pick him on her.
Yeah, but I'm just, yeah.
What about a subcontractor, not having to play?
I know, you mentioned earlier, when you said we, because of budget and stuff, that you probably get somebody younger, and, you know, Rob's married, and so on and so forth. I said, you can't, so if I apply for the job, I can't get a job. So you discriminated against me because of my age. It's against the law. This is a government entity, this isn't a private company. You could get a lawsuit with that. Just
Well,
saying.
Yeah,
Why
we
I'm saying
understand. I think Mark will comment.
I know, I
He was
just
hoping
wanna
to be a beginner, we'd come in at a lower rate. He could
That's
train
fine,
him.
but you
Anyway,
can't,
So, anyway,
you can't just pick a younger guy.
no, we're,
How about
You
that?
can't discriminate.
qualified. Yeah. Okay,
So, am I to hear it correctly, we're taking the 50,000 out of the budget for the conversion and it is off the table? Or are you still actively pursuing this
we're
conversion?
taking that out, but we're only approving this as a preliminary budget at this point. It's not the final budget, just to be clear. What we do need to do tonight and get to it, get it done.
Is the assessment.
Approve the assessments, yeah.
But are you pursuing the special improvement
No,
district?
no, we're not.
You're not pursuing it at all?
No, not really.
Good, that takes another one.
So, I think,
Motion to approve the proposed assessment. Right, rather than approve the proposed budget. Proposed budget and assessment.
the
We're
preliminary,
just doing the budget now, the assessment is the next step.
we'd just be preliminary.
Yeah, let's do the preliminary budget.
Okay, so we had a couple changes on here, Mark, that we discussed.
Yes, the changes I have are well, I didn't get clear direction on what rate we'd like to make an assumption with regards to the new operator. But I did get the 50,000 taken out, that was the only change I have so far. I mean, that's another reason to throw money in reserves, if we have to hire a higher level, you got that reserve to cover that. My assumption is off.
Or you budget higher and hope, just know that's your cap, you know?
That's correct, that's the other option. You budget higher, you're gonna have higher assessments.
It's difficult to find somebody right now, it just is. Private sector pays so much more than we do, and it's difficult to find somebody worth, you know, pardon my French, worth a shit, you know?
But to your point, putting in the reserve makes it available.
So actually, that was the other, the 100,000 reserve. So that, yes, I have that, we're good then.
Maybe go from 23 an hour to 27. Six now. We have a motion.
Motion with those amendments.
And I second the motion on the preliminary budget. Aye.
Now, with those changes, the resolution that had the smaller assessment level, which in my packet was page 96 and 97.
No, it's the other two.
43.33 per acre on the east and 10.22 on the west.
Page,
99 and 100.
Number one, John Mark, what's the number?
99 and 100,
Page
so I have.
96 is the one that we need to look at. It's got page 99. One starts at 96 and the other starts at 96, right?
I'm mistaken, you're right.
Well, that was the lower one, and I think we're looking at the other one on page 96.
We like the 99 one, if you're
Yes,
gonna
the
go.
99 one's what we're looking at, because when you take out the 50,000, that's what it brings.
We don't like any of them.
Okay, but we have great uncertainty with regard to St. John's. And I would suggest going with the higher numbers right now until we figure that out.
There you go.
We just don't know.
There we go.
So, John, I just think that since we have a great unknown on what we're gonna collect from St. John's, I agree that I would go ahead and this is on page 96, the one with the higher numbers, so that we can get that. It can always come down, can't go up.
Yeah, I had that discussion earlier too about the certainty.
Okay.
Would you please try to lower the numbers?
Yes.
Because it is really hard for us to accept a higher rate with no ditches cleaned in our neighborhoods, okay? And I just want to say it over and over to each one of you. We're watching you, and we want our ditches cleaned. So please be careful in how you assess us.
What ditch do you live on?
Pardon?
What ditch do you live on? Oak Street?
I live on 93rd Street. I think it's ditch 16.
Okay, that's okay. How about adjournment?
Well, we need to. I second your motion then. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
That's the resolution that's at the 45.
Right.
4505.
Page 96.
Will you accept my motion for adjournment?
Oh, yeah.
One more item.
No.
Are we done?
No.
I got a few more public comments, right? Mark, is it?
Comments.
We didn't have public comments.
Public
yet.
comments on the agenda.
You don't have to say anyway.
Yeah, we did. All right. Public comment. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mathis, I have several comments and several questions, and I'd like these entered into the minutes of the meeting, please. Mr. Bain, welcome to Fellsmere. I have a question for you. When a unit of government, such as the Fellsmere Water Control District, is going to have a landowners meeting, and they publish the voting procedures in the meeting packet that's disseminated ahead of time, and that everybody has a copy of, or has access to, in your opinion, is it legal for that entity to disregard the meeting rules that they have published in writing so that the board can attain a result from the election that it desires, despite what has been recorded here? I'm asking for your opinion.
Public comment. Allow me to respond to your question under public comment.
I'm sorry. That's how public.
I will not be responding to question under public comment. This is for public comment to the board. So the question's noted.
Okay, fair enough. In the opinion of the people who are here tonight, there was only one candidate who was nominated, who was eligible to be voted on. That was Mr. Danskin. So, I maintain that Mr. Danskin is the legitimate new member of this board. Mr. Dooley was not here, and according to these rules, that makes him ineligible to be nominated. Furthermore, we looked at the property appraiser's website and looked for Mr. Dooley, and there's no record of him owning any land in Fellsmere.
He does.
Did he just acquire some?
Yes, 3
Like
days
a
ago.
4/100 of an acre lot by any chance?
3 days ago.
It's one of the small lots.
Yeah.
One of those near yours, Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
4/100 of an acre? Yeah.
Okay.
Not legitimate.
But look, I mean, we own 18,000 acres here.
I know. But you own that 4/100 of an acre lot to make you eligible to serve on the board because the land that you own through Fellsmere Joint Ventures is a corporate thing, and as a corporate representative, you can't be on this board, correct?
Right. I'm not going to opine on that, but I do know is we can vote. Okay. So
Okay.
corporation
Yeah, and the vote was null and void because that candidate was not eligible to serve because he was not here. And we're gonna stick to that, and we're gonna follow up on it.
He submitted a letter to accept the nomination. We have to look at it.
He wasn't here.
Wasn't here.
He was not here. It says the candidate has to be physically present at the meeting.
Well, the voting procedures can be established by the majority of the land.
There was a bait and switch. Mark.
No, there
We
was no
we voted on the one
opportunity for
thing.
us to do that. No, this was published. These are the rules of the meeting. We're not gonna let go of this. Now, I have a question for you, Mr. Mathis. Our group of landowners that meets regularly has been led to understand that there are no position descriptions or contracts for either you or the equipment operator. Is that correct?
Let me write the question down first before I answer. Let me write the question down before I answer.
Certainly.
So for the operator, I didn't cover the original, application and offer of employment that was responded to by Rob and others at the time. And so that contained the description. As far as mine goes, there is descriptions of my services straight out of statute. So that's covered out of statute.
No contract.
We don't operate by contract, we're just an employee at will of the board.
Okay, thank you. I want to go on record that I do have a medically documented hearing loss. And from here forward, I'm going to ask that we have audio equipment here that works so that the people in this audience can hear what you guys are talking.
Yeah. Americans with Disabilities Act.
Thank you.
We should have audio. For $1 million, we should at least have audio.
It's not our building. You know, it's not.
It's your responsibility.
Say that.
Please let
Did
the
you
city know.
assess, or did y'all vote on the assessment? It's clear, right? So we're in public comment?
Yes, public comment, right.
Okay. You got anything?
Yeah, I just wanted, as a group of EFLOG, which I joined, I don't know, a year ago or so, started after the flood, it's a lot. And we're giving you notice that we're moving forward with a petition to have a referendum to get away from the 1 acre, 1 vote. So, surprise, but that was the overall consensus from people that wanted to go that far. That's why you mentioned, Ms. Ledford had mentioned something about collecting money for an attorney. That's the avenue they want to go, and go through the referendum to the board, and then if it fails there, it's going to move to legislature from there, hopefully to get a bill sponsored. So I just wanted to let you know that, out in the open, we're not happy. It just looks like special interest all the time up there from the decisions you're making.
Well, I can tell you that, no special interest in me, so don't accuse me of that.
I'm not accusing anyone, I'm just saying what it looks like. And that's why the Ethics Commission was filed and by one of the members, and that's all I could say, I'm just putting it out there, being transparent that, as a group, we're 2 years in and people are still saying the same thing.
Yeah.
When you clean our ditches, I would think you would just clean the ditches and we would have went away. But no, apparently not. I don't know what to say. I literally have 2-foot cabbage palms in my ditch, and my ditch is good. I just don't get that. And
Can I get your ditch so I can take a look at it?
83rd East
83rd East, when you say east, that Park or you?
Park.
83rd Park.
Yeah. And yeah, basically, it's everybody's upset, and it's still even more heightened than it was before. You'd think it would calm down, but it hasn't. And now a lot of people are retired. All they have is time to watch you guys. I got to work for a living, so I don't have that kind of time, but you know what I mean. I'm a public administrator, so I sit in the same capacity Mark does. I don't want to be in your shoes right now. That's all I got to say. That's it.
Now we're adjourned?
Yes.